Sveiki! Šis ir raidieraksts Arotbiedrība nākotne un sociālais dialogs Latvijā. Mūsu raidieraksti kopumā ir 10 un tapuši sadarbībā ar Friedricha Eberta fondu Baltijas valstīs. Good afternoon. This is our podcast on future of trade unions and social dialogue in Latvia. And we have very special guest today in our first podcast, Director of Friedrich Ebert Stiftung in Baltics, Mr. Per Krumrei. How are you, Per?
Sveiki, Irina. I'm good, thanks. And I'm really much looking forward to this podcast because it's going to be the first time for me to sit as a speaker in a podcast as well. So thanks for having me.
So my first question would be, please tell me about the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung and main values and principles in cooperation with trade unions in Latvia. And what are the main challenges you see?
The Friedrich Ebert Stiftung is the oldest of the 7 German political foundations, and headquarters would like me to say that we are closely bound to the social democratic basic values of justice, solidarity and participation. This is of course true, but I also know that this sounds pretty sketchy and rather random, so I just pick a different starting point because I guess most of you don't know us. We are named after the first ever democratically elected head of state in Germany, which is Friedrich Ebert. And when he died in 1925, in 1926, the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung was set up out of his will in order to help those who are not privileged to get a proper education. And that's where you get from what the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung was all about. We trying to help those who are not as lucky in life as others. And I should also add that Mr. Ebert was a dedicated trade unionist. So the first head of state in Germany was not only a politician, but also a trade unionist.
Good to hear and good to know. So, and how you characterize the cooperation with trade unions in Latvia? And are we good partners? And what are the main challenges for us? And maybe main success stories?
I mean, basically, I obviously wouldn't be sitting here if you're not good partners. I start with a kind of a detour because when I started working with these kind of projects and also in the Baltic Sea region, I went to Sweden. And in Sweden, I always heard about trade unions in Latvia or the Baltics, and that's basically there's so little membership and there are so few people and there's not much hope. And then you come here, and I mean, I came 2019, and you get to meet the people and you see what trade unions are doing. And I happen to totally disagree with this assessment from the Nordics because I think you're doing a lot of great things. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but I think, yeah.
It's good to hear because we really try to move Nordic and we really appreciate the help of Friedrich Ebert Stiftung in education, in skills, upskilling, in social dialogue, because we also need skills in social dialogue during the digital transformation and changes and in society building after the COVID-19 and all the changes it brought to us. So thanks for that. And how you evaluate the main society building tools? Are trade unions fulfilling the role, or should we do more? Are we using the best of our potential, or shall we definitely do more in society building?
Okay, man, that's easy because you should always do more. You should always be better. You should always achieve more. But I know that this is not very popular in Latvia, but I'll take the historic approach. You know, looking back in history, when the workers' movement came up, and I know this terms are not very popular here in Latvia. There was a division of labor between the political parties and the trade unions. The political parties were looking for the system as such, and the trade unions were looking for what we call today the workplace. And I think the Latvian trade unions have achieved quite a bit on the workspace level. Of course, there's always more, and of course, you're never done. But the success of a trade union is always pinpointed by the success making the life for the members and the people at the workplace better. And I think there have been improvements recently, and you should be proud of that.
Yeah, we are happy, but we never stop. And with your help, we can achieve definitely more. And we would like to use also more effectively our experience, and not only our, but also foreign experience, especially European and Nordic and German experience, and Icelandic, for instance. Yes, we will have in August a forum with your support and special guest from Iceland, and we would really bring the best practices, best examples, and try to achieve them and implement as far as it is possible in Latvia. And in your eyes, what would be the best experience and peer learning, if we say so, learning from persons in trade union, because we are human organization, we are a persons organization, human network. What would be the best tools and practices and maybe examples?
That is a tough one, because I think we always have to make ourselves clear that in an international perspective, even if you look to Sweden, even if you look to Germany, even if you look to Iceland, where trade unions are strong, they are suffering there as well. Because our society changes, our environment changes, and the concepts we used successfully in last years may not be working any longer. What you can learn from abroad is how to establish yourself as a credible player among people who are not necessarily on your side. They don't have to agree always, because if you're agreeing to everything, it's harmony, then it's easy. But they have to take you seriously, and they have to know, okay, when we're going that way, there will be a reaction, or there will be suggestions from trade unions. And I think in order to achieve that, you need to have long-term strategic goals. So you need to pick 1, 2, 3 strategic goals which you're trying to achieve within a defined time period, and which will always be on the head of your agenda, no matter what you're doing, and besides the things a trade union has to do on a regular basis.
It's true. And futuristic goals and long-term, long-run goals always are showing credibility and sustainability of organization, which is very crucial for us. We don't need goals maybe for one day. We need them too, but they're operational. We need sustainable and long-run futuristic goals like Europe 2030, 2050, even now, yes. And we need also definitely trade unions 2030, as you say, at least. And also maybe 2050, who knows, yes. My next question is about main task and main to-do list for trade union, which is more practical aspect of what we are already covered, and concerns also leaders and this mapping of future, how to become more effective and top performer in workers' representation and innovative social dialogue in Latvia. This is definitely one of the main questions in my mind.
Again, tough one. All I can give you is like a foreigner's perspective, because I'm quite often not so much involved in the day-to-day work, of course. What I got as an impression is that in order to be more effective, you should overcome this kind of defensive approach trade unions in Latvia quite often have. When you come to an event, or you start speaking to somebody, you always, the first few sentences, you always have to defend why trade unions are a good idea and why it's not an outdated concept. I think the world is changing rapidly, and we see in a country, for example, another neighbor, Estonia. Digitalization does by no means mean that everything becomes better for everyone if nobody takes care for these kind of regulations and rules. And this is something where I think when you come up with a suggestion which is practical and which takes into account some problems, then people will take you seriously. And then people will also start including you on an early stage for new regulation, new law. And at the same time, that's the tough one, you need to show to your members always it's worth being a member. So there needs to become something practical always for each and every member.
Definitely. It's always the first question, what will I gain if I become a member? And there's always small practical things and economic interests who when turn to long run and maybe more general interests. And
If I may jump in here, because I think this is a very important point which I saw coming here to Latvia. This buzzword, solidarity, we use it quite often without actually making ourselves aware what it means. And it basically only means, frankly speaking, life is not fair, at least not always. And it's always better to have people helping you out if life treats you not fair. So it doesn't have to be economic added value all the time. Sometimes in a workplace you just run into a problem. It doesn't have to be a person. It can also be the structure. It can be your family life, anything. And it's always good to be in a society. And I think this idea should be stressed by trade unions more actively, because if you look at all the polls, people are looking for security, and security does not always have to be in money.
Definitely. I agree with you totally. And also in YouTube videos with title, What Will I Gain from Trade Union? The first impression was a shoulder. Impression that you have a shoulder at your workplace, which is like social support when you need, when you have tough times. It's the best practice of solidarity. And also, of course, helping out, giving advice, or even more, some helping in action is the best kinds of solidarity. Help those in need. That's the best solidarity, and it should never be used in black meaning, like against somebody or so solidarity in my eyes totally is also something good, pure, and helping people, helping build a network and making trade unions stronger, making the quality of life, as you expressed, better, which is the main task of trade unions, definitely, and so-called industrial policy makers. And if I may ask, how do you find cooperation with our trade union? I lead LSAB Pro, so in Latvian Latvijas Sakaru Darbinieku Arotbiedrība Pro. How you find our cooperation?
I think I already said that. I wouldn't be sitting here if I don't find it good. And you are one of the more innovative trade unions, and definitely that's also this project is reaching beyond the usual target audience. And so I really hope that we find some people out there who will get into the idea and say that it's actually on us to shape the society we want to live in.
Exactly. And always, if not everybody agree with you, as you mentioned, yes, it's not always easy to come with some changes or innovative idea, because usually somebody say, no, we don't want any changes, we don't want any innovation, it's better to stay who we are, but it's, I'm afraid, not possible, yes, at this time. And thanks for your support and evaluation. We very appreciate that. And the main and last question is how we could prioritize the collective bargaining, which is the core activity of trade unions, to conclude collective agreement, to have this collective protection and everything at the workplace or at the sector. What would be the main drivers to prioritize the collective bargaining and to boost it in Latvia?
I think what you need to do, I mean, you have started, especially your organization, you have already started and you have implemented these kind of agreements. And I think they are very much good because they are these strategic goals I was speaking about earlier. Because they establish a standard which will be hard to go behind. If you have at one point established a standard, what you probably need to do is to find players on the employer's side who are willing to join forces, because you will have a very hard time to establish these kind of collective agreements against employers. But there are a lot of good examples. I mean, in Germany we have the social dialogue, and we have very much institutionalized things where trade unions are present. And I think this is also one thing which I keep on telling politicians in Latvia over and over again. Yes, trade unions can be and are an interest group and a lobby group for employers, the only one as far as I know. But at the same time, they should be treated not as only one more interest group, because they have a more special function in a society. And this is something where you should do advertisement for them, to win over people who think, yes, we may not always agree on things, but if we have a system where we can share our thoughts with long term, and the precondition for this is a collective agreement. Then you can make it work.
Definitely, and we will try to do the best and really put the law in action, and from rules to action, and from negotiations to good, solid collective agreement. And just last question, which is quite topical after the pandemic. Would you agree that gender equality should be prioritized in collective bargaining?
Yes, I would. But on the other hand, I probably wouldn't put it as a single headline. I would use it as a cross-cutting issue. Because the risk I see if you put it as a headline, as a bullet point into the negotiations, you always have people who are saying, okay, why is that needed? And I think the cause of gender equality is best served if it's in there as a cross-cutting issue. In every single case, there must be somebody asking, okay, what about gender equality? Because this will give an added value for all the members. This will make clear that we are working for an equal society. But at the same time, you're minimizing the kind of attack sphere where people who are not looking at our activities in a very fashionable way cannot link in and say, okay, we attack them here. So I think, yes, it should definitely be in there, but I would be cautious just putting it too much prominent on a headline.
Sure, that would be maybe in the future, but not today. I agree that society is not ready yet for that, and we have so many issues to solve.
Actually, I disagree. I think society is ready for it. Politicians are not.
Oh, okay, good point. Very good point. And maybe you could comment more and say some concluding phrase for the podcast and takeaways.
So my takeaway from my cooperation here with Latvian trade unions is don't be too harsh to yourself, because you're achieving a lot of things which are really, really good. You need to build up alliances in a society, and this is something I think all trade unions should focus more on, not only politicians, but also in society, convincing people of that it's good work for everyone and that it is. You can see that, who doesn't want to live in a welfare state like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, even Germany? And why is that there? Because we have strong trade unions. I think you can make this course pretty clearly.
Thank you very much for the conversation and good cooperation. We appreciate so much, and we're really doing our best to do the best and be the innovators and do best what we can. Even if everybody don't agree with us, yes, there are some contra elements. We still are moving forward and doing our best in strengthening the society with your help and building step by step good solidarity, solid collective agreements, and social dialogue in Latvia.
Thank you so much. And don't give up on it, because our support is actually pretty selfish, because we are looking for partners who strive for a world which we think is the one, a society like it should be. And you are doing that. Thanks for that. Paldies.
Thank you. Vielen Dank. Ja tev ir kāds pazīstams, kam liktos interesanti šī informācija, droši dalies, piesako mūsu YouTube kanālam un ieskaties www.lsab.lv. Droši raksti lsab@lsab.lv un atjaunosim arotbiedrības kopā. Raidieraksts tapis sadarbībā ar Marana Productions.